Hey everyone, and welcome to an, in a way, special season finale of More Layers. I'm Seth Mariano.
And I'm Jordan Smith. And what Seth means by special is we actually did last week have a episode ready. We recorded it, and we were actually in the same room because he and I live a lot closer now. But unfortunately, when it came to editing the video, it got all screwed up. Our voices were a lot faster and a lot more higher pitched. So unfortunately, we weren't able to post that one. However, this one is special because we're not actually going to follow the formula that we normally do, where we're asking a lot of questions surrounding a specific topic. Instead, for this season finale, Seth and I are going to be actually doing a Q&A.
Yeah, and the formula may be somewhat different for the next season. I'll probably discuss that later with Jordan, but for now, we'll focus on the routine we have for today, which is a simple, sort of, kind of icebreaker Q&A question thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And well, got a few simple questions, and the first one, and we're going to offer both our answers to all of them. And
Yep.
the first one: what is a restaurant outside of Rochester?
You might want to repeat that. You cut out about halfway through.
All right. So, first question: what's a restaurant outside of Rochester, New York, that you would recommend?
See, outside of Rochester, there's probably plenty that I've tried that I just can't think of for some reason. But one that did come to my mind that I've been to is Hard Rock Cafe. This place does have multiple locations. I can't remember which one I went to, but especially if you're a fan of rock and roll, then you'd probably like one of these places because they have good food and the entire place is decked out in rock and roll decor. And I believe they play rock and roll music constantly. So not only are you getting good food, you have a really good setting if you're into that sort of thing.
Do you have an idea of how far away this one was that you went?
I want to say it was in a different state.
Hmm. Like on the East Coast or a
Oh, it was
little
it
further
was
out?
definitely on the East Coast. It might have been Niagara Falls area, maybe in Florida.
Okay.
I know they're on like opposite sides of the East Coast, but I'm pretty sure I went to one, and I want to say it was the one near Niagara Falls, but I could very well be wrong about that.
All right. So, one that I think I would recommend is one that I visited on my last trip to Nashville. A
Mhm.
little, they've got a few locations in multiple southern states called Slim Chickens, sort of a simple fast food chicken type place with some um, on chicken tenders, that kind of thing, some toast, homemade potato chips, and yeah, it was good.
Okay.
Yeah,
And what's it called again?
Slim Chickens.
Slim Chickens. Okay.
Yeah, I went to the location in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, while I was visiting my brother down in Nashville, and it was good.
All right. Are there other locations for that place too, or just the one?
There are other locations. I think, I think they're all in the South. There's one in Arkansas I know of. Yeah, so there's more than one location.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Sort of shifting gears. What's a restaurant in Rochester you would recommend?
Well, in Rochester, there were a few. Excuse me. But the one that came to my mind is a diner out on Buffalo Road called Pixley's. I think it's right at the corner of Buffalo Road and Pixley's, but it's it's what you'd expect from a diner, but honestly, anything I've ever tried there has been absolutely phenomenal. The people I go with, we always have a good time. It's just an overall good experience that happens to have good food to boot.
Yeah. Mine would, I think, have to be Happy Days on the Go. They have a couple locations here in Rochester, sort of simple little, well, burger, fish fry, ice cream shop that we actually went to after we wrapped up The Lion King Jr. last year.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so that one's good.
Yeah, I remember going there. I know a few of us went. I know not everybody could, but it was definitely a fun time while we were there. And of course, food was good.
Yeah. All right. Here's a kind of deeper question. What was one difficult part about playing a certain role in Artists Unlimited, which, for those of you who don't know, is the special theater company that Jordan and I are a part of?
Mm-hmm. Now, for this one, I thought of more than one, although I settled on one. I was originally going to say when I played one of the brothers in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, because that was the very first show I ever did. And I had to do a song in a French accent, so a lot of new stuff in a very short amount of time. So it was a lot to get used to. But what I settled on was when we did Beauty and the Beast and I played Lumiere. And the reason for that was just holding up those candles for hands for an extended period of time. Like overall, the costume was good. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I would definitely do it again. But for a little while, the flashlights that I would use to hold on to as well as light up the hands were straight up and down. So the grip wasn't always the easiest to do. And my arms would start to get tired after a while. But the crew worked very hard to fix the problem. And they eventually found flashlights with curved hilts so that holding on to them was much easier. I could hold them up for longer without my arms getting tired. So holding them up for a long time was hard, but thankfully it was also remedied at some point.
All right. I would have to say mine would probably be playing a pig in my first show, Shrek the Musical. Well, it was some. Well, one thing, it has more to do with like the physical, well, look. Like the face paints, it's pretty much wet the whole time. You got to be careful not to touch it for one thing, but
Right.
the big thing, and you probably might see this if you look at the Facebook of Artists Unlimited, or if you did back in the day anyway. But at some point, I think it was during the closing performance, when we encored "I'm a Believer," my head came loose.
Oh,
I tried to avoid that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Like this was during the last show?
I think maybe.
Because if that's the case, depending on where the camera was pointing, it might have been seen, but even then, I'm sure it wasn't that much of a problem or a big deal.
No one said anything about it, but yeah.
Plus, this is a musical about wacky fairy tale creatures, so if something happened, it could be argued to be part of the show just for giggles.
Yeah, maybe. All right. Next, what's one thing you heard about from a friend or family member that you decided to check out for yourself and found cool or at least interesting?
Now, there really could have been many answers for this one, but one that I settled on was my friend Tom. He got me into watching an anime called Naruto. I hadn't really watched too many animes. You could say that I'd watched by that point some of the really well-known ones like Pokemon or Dragon Ball, but I wasn't sure about which ones I should watch after that because there were just so many, and some of them looked good, but I wasn't sure. But he at one point got me to watch a few episodes, and it was actually really entertaining. So I went back. I haven't watched through the entire series yet. I kind of stopped after a while, but I do plan on getting back into it. Uh, but yeah, he got me into a show I didn't expect to be all too interesting, but turns out I really like it.
Yeah, I have vaguely heard about that franchise.
It centers around ninjas.
All right, all right. I hmm, landed on a little a song by, I guess, a lesser known artist. I'd heard my brother mention this when he and his friend were interviewed on a friend's podcast. A song by a sort of hip hop contemporary artist named RMR. That's like that's all letters RMR,
Hmm.
and my brother mentioned a song that he put out called Silence, which he described as having a sort of Khalid vibe to it. And just the other day, I went and listened to it myself. It does have a sort of Khalid Post Malone vibe to it. It was pretty interesting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's my one for that.
And what's the name of it again?
Um, Silence by an artist named RMR.
Okay, cool. Got it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. What's one classic fictional story you might like to see retold on the big screen in a modern American way?
Yeah, what I ended up saying for this one, I know this was turned into a movie not ridiculously long ago, but I don't think it was well received either. I would like to see the story of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table be done like this. I'm not exactly sure how they would make it modern or quote unquote American, but I feel like there would be elements to that story where they could pull that off if it's done well. They did have a movie, I think it was called King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, or something similar to that. But I don't think it was necessarily modern per se, and not a lot of people seem to like it. So if they could make another one and somehow pull it off in this style, I would more than love to see it.
Yeah. It does have enough of a popularity that well, they could, I imagine, easily attract a lot of people. So,
Oh, sure.
yeah. Um, I went with Phantom of the Opera, which it's famous musical. It has been adapted for film at least once, but
Yep.
I feel like there's a sort of like there is at least one theme, about outcasts, that kind of thing, that is in a way relevant to today. That if if you were to somehow modernize and Americanize it just right, it could work. I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that. I was actually originally going to say Beauty and the Beast, but I think they kind of did that.
Yeah, with Beastly.
Yeah, I think that's what it was called. I think it had Vanessa Hudgens.
Yeah, and one of the Olsen sisters too.
Right, yeah. I don't think I ever saw it, but they at least kind of did a modernized spin on the story.
Yeah. So next one, what was the last film you saw in a theater?
Uh, trying to think. It was either It was either Thor: Love and Thunder, or it might have actually been Lightyear. I saw those two relatively recently. I forget which one I saw a little more recently, but I did see them both. Um, for Thor: Love and Thunder, I did very much like it. I just, like a lot of people, I felt it went a little too goofy at times. Because the third one, it had some goofiness, but it didn't stray too much into it. Whereas I feel this movie kind of did. For Lightyear, I don't think it was as bad as people had been portraying it to be. It definitely wasn't a masterpiece by any stretch, but it wasn't god awful either. And of course, there's the big controversial scene that got the movie banned in multiple countries. But even then, they didn't focus on it for very long, nor did they try to shove it into anybody's face. So really, it was practically a blink and you'll miss it thing. So I don't know what the big deal was.
Yeah. The last one I saw in a theater was Elvis, the new biopic of Elvis Presley with Austin Butler and Tom Hanks.
You know, I hadn't seen that, but a lot of people were saying it actually wasn't that bad.
It does, in a way, I guess, in a way, kind of give multiple sides to Elvis's career story. It's mostly told from the perspective of his manager, Tom Parker, but it does really kind of give you an idea of where Elvis's musical style came from, for one thing, and some of the professional choices he made.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might have to check that out because
Yeah.
I'd like to see different sides of his story. And again, because a lot of people were saying it was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. What was your best subject in school, and what was your favorite?
So for this one, I kind of had the same answer for
Yeah.
both. Um, what
Sure.
I ended up saying was mathematics. It was generally one that I would do better in, or at least had more interest in. And I ultimately liked it more than most. I started to fall out of my interest with it a little bit when I got to high school and letters and all these different formulas were being thrown in that I didn't understand. But for quite a while, it was one of my favorite classes to do.
I think math was my favorite too, and it probably helped that my dad used to teach it, and I I more or less thoroughly enjoyed it. But for some reason, the best grades I got were in gym class, which in a way you could say is too easy, but it is what it is, I guess.
I mean, hey, to each their own, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. What was the last show you binge watched?
Now, I can't necessarily say that I've actually binged watched a show before or watched an entire show in one or two sittings, but there would be times where I would sit down to watch more episodes than I normally would because I might sit down, watch one or two, and then come back to it later.
Well, several
But
episodes in one sitting, I would probably consider it counts.
all right, if that's the case, then I would say the animated series Star Wars: The Clone Wars. And when I say animated, I don't mean the original 2D animation. I mean the CGI one that just wrapped up not that long ago. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm about probably halfway through at this point. But I have watched quite a few episodes in one sitting before, and it's a really good story, honestly. It's one of their better stories that Star Wars has told.
Did they bring in some of the voice cast from the earlier Clone Wars series?
I have no idea. Partly because I don't remember when the 2D animated one came out, but I honestly don't know who voiced anybody in that version.
All right. Mine would have to be, I think, Stranger Things, specifically the new season. Like, I didn't probably I don't think we got through the whole first volume of the season in one sitting, but probably somewhere like half and half. And yeah, and it was a pretty good season.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. What was the last place out of state you traveled?
All right. Looking back, I believe the last time I traveled out of state was when I went to Universal Studios in Florida back in December.
Right. And I think you've told me about that.
I've talked about it a little bit in previous episodes, but generally speaking, it was fun. About 3 of us went. We went to multiple parks over the course of 3 or so days. We created a lot of fun memories there. And I would definitely go back at some point, especially to maybe find anything we missed. So that was the last place I went to. However, this upcoming week, I will be going down to ultimately Virginia. And I say ultimately because I'm stopping in Maryland first. But I'm going to Virginia this upcoming week to see some of my family and to participate in some Smash Brothers tournaments.
All right.
Yeah. So that'll be exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. My, I think, last out of state trip was like a birthday weekend trip this year in May into Pennsylvania, where I got to go to the Sight and Sound Theater, which is a theater company that puts on musical productions based on biblical stories using 3-sided stage, CGI visuals, and yeah. So, and it was a good show.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this was where?
In Pennsylvania, little town in Pennsylvania called Ronks.
Right.
Yeah. All right. If you had to learn one new skill, what would you choose?
There's probably a good handful, but the one I ultimately went with is playing the piano. And I can kind of do that at this point, but my problem is I struggle to play with 2 hands simultaneously because whatever one hand is doing, the other hand wants to mimic the same movements. So if I can learn how to have both my hands moving independently to play a lot more varieties of music, then I would certainly love to learn how to play the piano in general.
Yeah, I kind of tried several years ago, but I just did not have the patience.
It does take a lot of time and dedication.
Yeah. I'm torn between maybe playing a drum kit or cooking from scratch. One of those two, maybe, I think I might enjoy.
Well, I'm sure you can look up a lot of those, a lot of tutorials for those as well. So even if you got a recipe book and you followed it to the letter, then that's definitely a good place to start.
Yeah, maybe.
Was there anything in particular you have wanted to make?
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't really thought about it. Maybe like some sort of gourmet pasta or something, I guess, is like the one thing I've thought about. But I I would probably be interested in then trying like a variety of like recipes for that, or chicken wings, or pizza or something.
All right, I could definitely see that.
Yeah. All right. What was the last professional sports event you attended?
Now it's hard to say because actually haven't been to a sporting event in quite a while. Uh, it might have been a Red Wings game at some point. Uh, I don't think it was a hockey game because I haven't been to one in the longest time. It might have been a Rochester Nighthawks game, which is for lacrosse. Uh, might have been a football game at my college that I went to. Yeah, not entirely sure what the very last or most recent one I did was, but it was more than likely either a baseball game or a lacrosse game.
Well, mine was, I think, had to be years ago. It was, I went to one game in Toronto, a Yankees at Blue Jays game with my dad in Toronto, and yeah, I think I didn't pay much attention for whatever reason. I spent about a good chunk of the time stuffing cookies in my face, and the Yankees lost.
Now, what can you do? They have one of the highest winning records in sports history, but that doesn't mean they win every time.
Nah, I don't know who does. Yeah.
The only there's probably more than just the one, but the only team I know of that ever had an undefeated season was the Miami Dolphins in 1972, I believe.
And then the New England Patriots in like 20 something.
Almost. They
Almost. Almost.
they
Well,
won
if
they won
not
almost
counting
every game.
postseason.
Not counting postseason, then yes. But if you're counting postseason, because that's still technically part of their season, uh, they got all the way to the last game, the Super Bowl, without losing a single game, and then the Giants swiped it away from them.
On a last minute touchdown.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. What was the last special TV event, like an award show, an annual holiday event, or etc., that you watched?
See, there usually aren't too many. I think the last one I kind of watched was the Oscars, where that infamous moment between Will Smith and Chris Rock happened. But even then, while we were technically watching it, we mostly had it on in the background because we were waiting for specific awards to come out to see if some of the movies we liked would win. And then we kind of paid more attention when that moment took place, but even then, it was mostly on in the background.
I think that's one of those kind of programs you can more or less, uh, have on and chat through without guilt, mostly, I guess.
Yeah, I would definitely say the same thing.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think mine would have to be the Super Bowl. I think if I calculated right, the Super Bowl back in February of the Bengals and Rams.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's probably been a while. I haven't really. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that would be the one for me. What was the last spicy food item you ate?
That would have to be earlier this week at work, where they were having employee appreciation week. So every day they had a different food or theme going that employees could check out while they were on break or something. And at one point, I forget what it was actually called, but it had something to do with beans and some kind of sauce. And it surprisingly had a bit of spice to it, a bit of a kick. But thankfully, it was still really good. So I ate what I had left.
Maybe like a chili bean or something.
It probably was some kind of chili bean, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that does sound cool. You got like a rotation of foods you got to taste all throughout the week.
Yeah.
That reminds me of recently at the school district, a bunch of the faculty or whatever were doing the annual Leadership Academy conference, and they were serving meals like pretty much all through the week for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Which I didn't have any of them myself. I know one or so of the guys in my office got leftovers, but I did, but I didn't bother. I just kept bringing my own lunch.
That's still perfectly fine. It just
Mhm.
meant that they had an option that you didn't want, and that is okay.
No, I would have probably. It's not that I didn't like what they had, but it just and just I figured no, in case they didn't have enough, I would just bring my own thing.
That makes sense. Very
Yeah,
respectable.
yeah, yeah. So the last spicy thing I ate would have to be the spicy nacho cheese Doritos, like the other weekend that I didn't even know they made
I've
until I
never
had them
heard of
that
it.
time.
Hmm.
I didn't know they even made them at the time, but we were visiting my granddad and we picked up a few things on the way. And for some reason, my dad decided, now let's get a bag of this spicy nacho cheese Dorito stuff. And yeah, I went with it and had some, and I quite enjoyed that.
I mean, hey, as long as it's good.
Yeah. All right. All right. What was the last movie you saw on live TV?
Now, I'm assuming this just means a movie that was airing on television at one point.
Yeah.
All right, so I believe that would have been Shrek 2 for me, because at one point in the past few weeks or so, I was house slash cat sitting for somebody, and I would sometimes have something like Nickelodeon on or something in the background, especially if it's a show I recognized and watch. Uh, but for some reason, almost every day I was there, they aired either Despicable Me, like the first one, or Shrek 2. And I had seen Despicable Me already, and at one point they were doing Shrek 2 again. So I'm like, you know what? This is a good movie. I'll watch it at least once.
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite sequels, Shrek 2.
Yeah, it's one of those examples where a sequel can actually be done well and honestly, to me, end up being better than the original.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. The last one I saw was also the same weekend and same occasion. I was visiting my granddad. No joke. It was the original Spy Kids.
And this, when did you watch it?
It, the other weekend when I was visiting my granddad.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I was pretty much flipping through channels and happened to come across a channel that happened to be airing the original Spy Kids, which was 21 years ago that came out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
I ever actually saw any of the Spy Kids movies. I did see a movie that was done in a similar vein, done by the same director, called Shark Boy and Lava Girl. But
I saw
yeah,
that one too, yeah.
I was about to say I've seen that one, but I don't think I've seen the Spy Kids films.
Yeah. Yeah, those were a pretty big part of my growing up. Yeah, they were. I had plenty of fun with those.
And that's what's most important.
All right. All right. What was the last pro sports event you saw on live TV?
I believe for me, that would have been Super Bowl 52, which was the year that my team, the Philadelphia Eagles, finally won their first one.
So it's been what, like 5 years?
Roughly, yeah. Normally, I don't watch the Super Bowl because I'm hanging out with people in a different room while it's being shown.
Fair.
But I did watch that one because it was my team. Uh, I don't think I've seen any other big ones since then. Like I haven't really watched the World Series or March Madness, Stanley Cup, what have you. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it was that Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, mine was a lot more recent. It was again same weekend with my granddad. It was technically an encore, but it was I think a fairly recent game between the Royals and the Yankees. That was a
Okay.
good one, and they won that one.
Oh, good.
Yeah. All right. Okay. What was the last meal you ate from a restaurant?
Now I do know that the last restaurant I'm pretty sure I attended was Applebee's. What I got there though, I'm trying to remember. It might have been a burger. Part of me thinks it was something that involved shrimp. I'm pretty sure it was one of the two, but I can't actually remember what I got the last time I was there. But I'm pretty
All
sure
right.
it was one of those two things.
All right. Mine was probably the last one that I think mine might have been either a chicken cob wrap from Core Life or the breakfast combo I had from McDonald's, which was an answer to a later question. So I'll get into that more later.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, both good. Yeah. All right. What was the last thing you bought with cash?
Also, not with a card or anything, or
Nah. I know I originally wrote it last thing you bought, but then I rethought that because hackers, credit card, that kind of thing. So I wanted to avoid that trouble. So
okay. Because I had an answer, but it wasn't something I bought with cash. Let's see. What was the last thing I got with cash? Might have to think about that one for a second.
yeah, yeah. The last thing I got was the breakfast that I mentioned earlier that I got from McDonald's. The was a combo meal of a McMuffin, a hash brown, and a frappe.
Ooh.
Yeah, which which is I'd say kind of like coffee, but it's not. Apparently there's no coffee stuff in it, so you know
I was
it
about to
may
say,
look like there is, but
because I'm one of those people that doesn't know the difference between things like coffee or cappuccino or frappe. I'm sure there are differences, but I do not know personally what they would be.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you don't remember?
I feel like it's on the tip of my tongue. Maybe I'll think of it while we
Yeah,
answer this last question, but I'm
yeah,
struggling.
yeah. Yeah, I know. I know the little change to that question was kind of a short notice, so yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it might have been a snack from a vending machine.
Oh yeah,
'Cause at
remember
one
what it
point,
was?
let's see, I was on break at work, and they happened to have a vending machine back there. It's like, you know what? I'll get something a little extra. Uh, I want to say it was cherry flavored Pop Tarts.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right, okay. And just this last one, it's what's a product that's not made anymore that you might like to see revived?
Now, what I ended up doing here was going with a product that very recently has been discontinued that I haven't had the chance to try yet. And there's already been rumors that it'll come back at some point, but I don't know. It is the Klondike Choco Taco.
Might have vaguely heard of that.
It's kind of what you think of, where instead of a taco shell, it's a waffle cone, and there's chocolate, and Klondike, it's ice cream or something similar. Uh, and I always thought it was something that sounded really good. I never really got around to trying one, and they announced recently that it was being discontinued. So hopefully they'll bring it back at some point, so I'll have a chance to try one.
Yeah, there was an ice cream and soda shop down in Nashville where, again, my brother lives. That he had mentioned to us, and we had thought about going to, but we had, I guess, put it off too long because it had gotten wrecked by a storm. But they may or may not be rebuilding it. I don't know.
Do you remember what it was called?
No, nah, I'm blanking on the name.
Maybe it'll come to you at some point, but
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully, at the very least, the people who were working at that business recover however they can.
Yeah. All right. For me, I have to say there was a fast food item that was out for, I think, a short time many years ago at Burger King. The Shake 'em Up fries.
Shake 'em up fries.
Yeah, it's basically French fries that were served with a cheese powder packet,
Ooh.
and that you could pour on and shake to flavor it with.
Why haven't I heard of this? This sounds amazing.
It was good from what I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully they bring that back. I want to try these now.
And, and I guess if they get enough fan demand, they might make it happen.
Maybe. I mean, McDonald's brought back stuff that had been discontinued for years, so it's not out of the question.
Yeah, so that's all we got, and yep. And as I mentioned earlier, this will be the end of the season, and I do have some little ideas for a new formula for the new season that I would like to put out there or propose.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, stream all our episodes YouTube, Anchor, Spotify, and any questions and comments are appreciated.
Yeah, I personally would love to do more Q&As, so if you have any that you want to ask and want to see what our thoughts are, even if it doesn't really stick to a theme or a subject matter that we've talked about, please send them to us. I'm sure we could make another Q&A episode at some point. And really, we just love hearing from you.
Yeah. Chime in, join the conversation, and thanks to everyone who has supported us so far and will in the future. And we will see you maybe in about a few months or so. But for now, we're going to focus on Willy Wonka and maybe we can tell you a little bit about that when we come back, and we'll see you soon.
Take care, everyone.